Hello and welcome to Pride Parkway. I'm Jeff and this is my N-gauge loft layout. It's quite a large layout. If it's your first time here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, follow along on the journey, and to all my new and old subscribers, welcome and a massive thank you for your continued support. I had a little bit of a quiet month in September. I kind of stepped away from the layout. My last video was the scenic break and it went down really well. It was my most popular video, but in my own life away from here, things are not great. 20-year career in travel is not panning out too well in the current world, so a little bit of time to myself just to sort things out. And now I'm back. I've been back up in the loft for the last couple of weeks working up here and just trying to distract myself a little bit. I'm not alone. I'm not going to go on about it for much, but I just want to explain why I disappeared. Also, I've been watching everybody's videos as always. I've just not been commenting on a huge amount of them. It seems like there's a lot of angry people in the world at the minute, and I've seen a few Facebook spats and things like that, so I've just been keeping my head down and getting on my own things and working on the layout. So without me rabbling on any longer, I am going to jump straight into the video and show you what I've been doing with all this scenery. So today I am going to be starting work on some of the scenics on this side of the layout. There's anything from here, which is the edge of these removable boards, right the way through to the track just before the power station here. So it'll cover both the two branch lines and the two high-speed lines, main lines as well. We're going to go right the way down to the scenic break and right the way up to where the level crossing is on that side. Now, the first job that I have to do is some work on the track on these two branch lines. Now, I've detailed this track here. I've put in the cable trunk and I've put in the start of the yellow cables. I've also put in some equipment boxes. Now, if you remember, go back a couple of videos, there was an area here which had some relay boxes and equipment boxes in. I've now filled and raised that area, so this needs a new home, and I'm thinking about cutting it into the embankment on this side, probably somewhere about there. Put some railings around it and I'll have a nice little path coming down from the road, lay-by for network rail, etc. to park in. I've got a couple of other bits just sat here that have come off that I need to put back on, and then all of these back lines here, they need the cosmetic sleepers put in, the track work needs painting, I need to put in cable trunk in, so there's quite a lot of work to be done there. And then now I've also, over in this area, it's a little bit of a strange camera angle, so apologies for that, but so anyway I can show you it. I've made a cutting here into the side of the hill, put some brickwork in there, just my usual method of using some cardboard, grey board, and then covering it in plastic card. And then just in the bottom, again, we've got a piece of grey board. We've got some relay boxes on the top, and then I've just put some steps in here as well. And again, they're just pieces of cardboard just glued on top of each other, and we'll put a small pathway in up at the top. Nice and simple with that. So the next job is to get some greenery and some ballast down. So okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, everywhere that I want grass, first of all, I'm going to get a base layer down. Now, there's lots of different ways to do scenic work. This is the way I do it. It works for me. If you want to try it this way, by all means try it. If you've got a better way to do it, then you crack on and do it your way. But this is the way that I'm going to do it. So what I'll do first of all is I will work in small areas, probably kind of about this much at a time, maybe a little bit more. Get some PVA glue down, and I'm just going to use neat PVA, just good old cheap PVA glue. And then on top of that, I'm going to add a whole load of different scatters. Now, I use a combination of the Woodland Scenics and also some of this Jarvis scatter as well. The Jarvis one's quite cheap, so that's good. So what I've got here is some Jarvis scatter number 31, and that is a dark earth colour. So hopefully you can see that okay. I've got a Jarvis scatter number 19, which is rough pasture. And that's got quite a lot of different tones in it. Now remember, I'm modelling summer. I find summer one of the easier colours to do because things can be very green, or bearing in mind we're in the UK and it rains a lot, or they can be nice and brown and dry, so you can get away pretty much with anything, and I find that an easier thing to do. Speaking of dry grass, I've also got some fine turf burnt grass from Woodland Scenics, and I believe that's called T44. And then you can see here we've got the Woodland Scenics fine turf green grass, blended turf earth blend, and coarse turf burnt grass. I am going to put this on a time lapse so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to start down at the other end by the scenic break, and I'm going to work my way up. The next day, and that base layer of scatter or flock, whatever you want to call it, is all down. It's dry. You can work on this wet, but I don't work on it wet. I do this the way I do it. So as you can see, I've gone right the way down here. Now remember, there's some other baseboards to go in here that are removable. We'll work on them at a later date. It's just this main strip that I wanted to get done, and I've done that all the way here. And then moving around behind the camera, I'm just going to pick the camera up, so apologies, it'll go a little wobbly. I've also done, past the level crossing, a very thin strip at either side of the tracks as well. So we've got the farm that's going to be up at the back, so we'll work on that as a separate project. We're going to have a campsite here, which again I'll work on that as a separate project. And then we've got the river. There's a whole load of rubbish in this area at the minute, and my new car carriers, that'll be worked on as a separate section as well. So the next job for me is to ballast the track. Okay, so that's all the ballasting down now as well. Now, I'm just going to move this around. It's quite hard filming on this side of the loft because I've got the beams that hold the roof up in the way. So I have to keep trying to find a spot to put the camera. But hopefully you can see right the way down there, the tracks are all ballasted apart from the back there, which is going to be the Heritage Line Yard, and over here, which is going to be the power station as well. So they're still to be done, their future projects. But the next job is to continue with the Scenics now. So this is the first selection of goodies that I'm going to be using. Nothing that you're unfamiliar with. We've got some fine turf, some blended turf, some coarse turf, and some underbrush from Woodland Scenics. So we've got some bushes here, and if you follow Jack over at Rattling Road, you will see he used these, and that's where I found out about these. They're really good. They come from eBay, and that's the name of the seller just there. I've got 3 different packs of them. I've got some fine leaf foliage left from when I made the trees. Now remember, I've got all them trees as well, and I'm going to put a link up in the top corner of me making the trees so you can see them. Then down here on the floor, I've just got some random scatters. Now these come from Wws Scenics, and I picked these up at a train fair. I can't remember which one it was, but again, there is the website on there. So you've got a lavender field, you've got a poppy field, bluebells I think they are, and I think that's a daisy field or something like that. But I use these just to scatter wherever I want flowers, or if I'm going to make flower beds in the station, that kind of thing. They're really good for that. I've got some leaves. I've got my big box of grass and static grass. The majority of this is WWS products. So I've got their base glue, I've got their layering spray, I've got their Pro Glass grass applicator, I've got their precision applicator. This one, love this one. And then I've got a selection of grasses in there from 1 mil up to 4 mils. And then this is my box of bushes, underbushes, clump foliage. We've got some lichen in there. We've got horsehair. Again, you know, it's just things I've picked up at trade shows. That's £1.50. I'll just pick that and put that in the basket and not even think about it. But it's all going to come in handy. So first job, static grass. Let's get up onto the layout. So we're back at the layout, and just kind of wanted to point out the way I'm going to do this. Everybody has their own way, but I'm kind of going to look at it and think, right, where am I going to put trees? There's trees, I don't need long grass because grass doesn't grow that long under trees. Where am I going to have long grass? Where am I not going to have long grass? And potentially, where might I have animals grazing? Now, I've just chosen this end of the layout to talk about it, but basically what my thinking is, over here we'll have trees that are out the way. Now what I don't want to do is, I may add some trees along here at some point, but there's no point in doing that until I've finished with the power station. So there will be some areas that are missing trees, but I definitely want trees in there and bushes to help blend all of that in. I'm going to have probably some long grass on here because, you know, it's just by the power station, nobody's going to be caring for it, nothing's going to be grazing on it. This bit here again is going to be a bit overgrown, lots of high bushes on there, so it hides them trains as they're coming out a little bit, add a bit of interest. Now here I've got quite a nice space, and remember there's another board to go in here. I'm not working on that board yet, but actually bear in mind the road comes in here. That gives me all this space, so actually I'm going to make that into a field with some cows in. I've definitely got some cows in a box somewhere of the old layout, so that'll add a little bit of interest there. Along here, gorse bushes, long grass, all that kind of thing. We've got a small pathway in down here that I've put in. So that's the way I'm looking at it, and that's the way I'm thinking about it. So here, where it's going to be a field, I'm just going to use 1 to 2 mil static grass, make it really uniform, really nice looking. Over here, I'm going to use 2 mil static grass to start with, and then I'm going to layer it up on top of that to get it probably to 4. I might even go to 6 mil. That's definitely the plan. Over here where the trees are going to be, I'll probably just put a little bit more coarse turf down, and then I'll put the trees in. So let's start with this area, and then we'll move on and do the static grass along here. I'm going to do a lot of this on time lapse because you've seen it all before. And yeah, let's crack on. Alright guys, so what I thought I'd do is I'd just show you this corner of the layout. So the heritage station is just down there. It comes out, it sweeps around, and this is where we head off towards the viaduct. These are those extra rocks that I showed you that I'd put in. It's a nice corner that I can do quite quickly and let you see what I'm doing before I crack on and fast forward and get the rest of the layout done. But you can see here I've framed the areas that we're going to work on with some dry stone walls. So there's some here and there's also some there. These are the Jarvis stone walls. They come in little sections and they just kind of sit next to each other. What I do is I put them together and I put a little bit of filler between each of the sections when I put them in, and then they just sit, get glued down. I use a bit of speed bond, and then once they're dry, I dry brush them with the 2 different shades of grey. Then I put a black wash over them, and basically that just gets rid of the joins between them. And if you do get a bit of a dodgy joint, just put a bit of bush over it, a bit of greenery, and that'll hide it. So I've done that there, and I've done that there, and then that frames the railway and the area we're going to work on. This is the farm scene at the back. We're not doing that today. Campsite at the front, we're not doing that today neither. Everything I'm using for the static grass is WWS, so I've got their basing glue here, I've got their layering spray, I've got their static grass applicator, the Pro Grass applicator, and then what I'm going to use to start with is their 2mm spring and the 2mm summer, and I mix them together, and that gives me a nice base layer. So a bit of them together in there, get them mixed up. The reason I use them for is I find the summer a little bit too dark and the spring a bit too garish green, so by mixing the 2 together. And then this straight out of here, I've got another tub of this, there's not much left in here, and I use a brush, and rather than putting it everywhere, I just dab it on in areas and I miss areas as well. Now over here, I'll move the camera up ever so slightly, we've got a tunnel mouth here, and this is going to have a load of trees on it, so I don't want too much static grass on there. I want that to be predominantly the scatter material that's already on there. So I'm going to probably start just here on the front, work my way along there, and then work my way back along this area here for the static grass. I'm not going to do this area here just yet by this bottom wall because it's a very thin area, and I'll use the micro applicator to do that one. So yeah, first job, get the glue down, get this inside the applicator, and then get the static grass down. So let me get that done now. Okay, so that's all of the grass down. Next job, little hoover. This little hoover, I love this thing. I think it was about £10, can't remember, but it was off Amazon. I'll put the link down below, have a look at it. It's brilliant for scenic work. Spilt a bit on the board here as well. Pick it all up. Basically this is empty, and all I'm going to do is pick up anything I want to keep. So I'll get rid of all the excess static grass. Let's get it done. Now the great thing with this is, watch. So it looked like I'd used loads of static grass, but I haven't. Anything that wasn't attached to glue, you see that? I just hoovered it straight back up, and because I empty this little hoover between each job, so for example, I empty it after I've used it for ballast, I empty it after I've used it for scatter, I empty it after I've used it for static grass, and therefore I can just keep lifting out. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over the areas that did have glue. This will help make the grass stand upright, and again it'll just take off any excess that's there that I don't want. So let's get that done. So you can see there just how much grass I've got back up, and that'll all get kept and used again. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a play with this. I don't want it to be uniformed. I'm not making a football pitch. It's supposed to be the countryside, it's supposed to be line side, it wants to be a bit rough. So I'm just going to have a little play with it and just move it around with my fingers. And if I knock the odd bit up, that's absolutely fine. This is on a hill, so I'm brushing it all upwards as well. And I don't mind if it clumps a little bit as well, because I want it to look rough. And we're going to go back over it again in just a minute. So rough is good. Okay, so I'm going to keep working on this while it's wet. It doesn't need to dry. Perfect. Okay, so next job, I want to get my tracks covered so still got a bit of protection, and then we're going to add the next layer of static grass. I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to grab some different static grass. Okay, so I've just put down some bits of insulation offcuts down just to protect the track. The reason I'm protecting it this time, I didn't last time, was because when I was using this glue, I had control over it. He says as he gets it all over his hands, using it with a brush. What I'm now going to use is the Wws Layering Spray. Now, I don't have so much control with this. Some of this will go on the tracks, and while I don't mind a little bit of grass on the tracks, I want to do that in a controlled manner at the end, not right now. Remember, if you're using this to wear a face mask as well, if you're working in a loft like I am, I'm right by the hatch. I've got the window open in the bedroom down below, and I've got a face mask that I'm going to wear up here as well. And then I'm just going to spray this down in areas. Then I'm going to go over it with a longer grass. Now, the grasses that I'm using are all the ones that came in the WWS starter set, and these just last for ages. I had these on my last layout. So I've got Autumn 4mm, Patchy 4mm, Dead 4mm, and even a little bit of Wild Meadow 6mm. Now, some people are of the opinion that 4mm too long. Possibly, if that's what you think, then don't use it. For me, 4mm is 2 feet, and you certainly get grass that's 2 feet high in summer, and this layout's based in summer. Do you get grass that's 3 feet high? Probably yes. So again, I have no issue with using that, but it's your layout. You do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to use a mixture of all of them. So let's get it done. Okay, so I'm done now with the static grassing. When you look at it, come down low so you can see really what it looks like at eye level, and make sure you don't have any grass that's sticking out the wrong way. It should all be upright, but mine looks nice and messy and long and windswept and typical northern summer. So next job is I'm going to focus on this little area over here. I need to move the camera so you can see what I'm doing. This little area here, I haven't put any static grass, I put a tiny bit in there, but coming up here, it's going to have lots of trees, lots of bushes. Hiding this side, I've got a bit of dodgy work on my tunnel portal there. It's going to be hid by trees. So under the trees, because it's going to have a lot of trees in this area, we need to, we wouldn't have long grass under the trees. And also, just over here, I've made a boo-boo on the back scene and torn it when I've been working on it, so we need to hide that as well. So I'm going to start with, again, the good old WWS base and glue. So let's just get some more glue down on top. So that's a nice base up there. Move that out of the way. Put the lid back on it. So got Woodland Scenics coarse turf in burnt grass and in medium green, and I am just going to scatter this all over up here, quite thick, quite rough and ready. I'm not worrying too much about how it comes out. I'm just going to move it around with fingers and push it down into the glue and just mess it up. Lovely. And then I've got some more brown scatter that I'm just going to chuck on the top there as well. What I really want on this side is lots of different textures, and I don't want anything to look too uniform, and you know, I'm just chucking that on there. Lovely. Now the next job, I'm just going to flatten that down a bit with my hands, and the reason I'm going to do that is I'm just trying to push it into the glue, because if I don't, when I hit it with IPA or water, it's going to fly all over the place. Hopefully the camera's picking up and you can see that I've got a nice rough but grassy looking terrain down there. It's all over my hands. Quick spray of either your water with a dash of brushing up liquid in it, or IPA. I use IPA. This is also the reason why I've killed that, because I've clearly got it wet at some point in time, but that's alright. We will hide that. So this IPA will just help make this nice and wet so that everything soaks through. That'll do. Next job, PVA mixed with water. I use a dropper bottle, I just find it easier to do that. Get a load of that on there. So we're soaking from the top and the bottom. Brilliant. Okay, so I've got some underbrush medium green, some underbrush olive green, and then I've got some olive green and light green bushes as well. I just need to work out anything that I need to hide over here. So I'm going to start with some good old green bushes. Now I want this area over here to be really bushy. And then I've sprayed all this with IPA, and then again I'm going to cover it in glue. Now some people might think this is overkill for a static layout. I don't, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'll get this glued down, and then I'm going to pick some trees out, and then we'll get the trees in. Okay, it's a different angle there for you, but you can see what effect I was going for there and how it blends into the back scene. There's still quite a lot of white here just where the glues ran, so don't worry about that. That'll all dry, just like when you do your ballasting. That'll all dry. Now the next job for me is to go along and right the way along this embankment here. Right the way along. Sorry, I'm having problems controlling the camera because I've got that much glue on my fingers. But I'm just going to go along and I'm just going to add bushes in along here, and then I'm going to get on with the big section that's behind me on the layout. So it's time for a bit of fast forward action, and I'm going to get it all done. fast forward a couple of days and the scenic work is pretty much there for where I want it to be at the moment. Now obviously there's still a lot of trees to go in. I can't do them until I've finished working on the back area, because otherwise they're just going to get broken. But I have let it all dry. I've cleaned the top of the rails, I've checked all the points are working, I've had some trains running. You might think it's pointless cleaning it right now because I need to paint the track, but I prefer to do it this way and make sure everything's working, because if there's any ballast that's causing a problem and I've got to dig up and soften any ballast, then there's no point in painting it to then do that, to then have to repaint it. So I make sure everything runs, make sure all the points are working, and then I'm going to start painting. I'm going to pick up the camera fully. You can get a good idea of what the scenic work looks like. So we've got the disused track just here, which is going to eventually run into my disused mine at the loft hatch. And again, if I come down nice and low, hopefully you can get a good idea there of what it looks like. I have put in a few little red flowers here and there because it's summer and I just want it to look like there's lots going on and create lots of nice little scenes right the way down. You'll notice I've done a slightly different style of static grass in this field down here that has cows in, and that's because I wanted it to look different, because of course land which is being used for animals will look different to just wild, unkempt other areas of the railway. Again, sorry, I've got to move around the beam, but that gives you a better idea of what that looks like right the way down. Now the scenic breaks out at the moment where this big brown area is, just because I'm going to be working on the track and I've been cleaning the track, so I needed that took out. And then if you remember those relay boxes that I put in, they are here. So this is the little gravel path I've put in, which leads to the steps which lead down to the railway. Let me adjust the camera, there we go, and there's a relay box. I've got a little bit of safety fencing to put in there yet. So next job is to paint the tracks. And I'm going to be using to paint the tracks is Rail Match acrylics. First one is 2406, and that is Sleeper Grime, and the second one is 2403, and I think that is Roof Dirt. Just a complete moment, I can't remember. I'll stick it in on the screen now, but those are the two paints that I'm going to be using. I'm using acrylic because I want them to dry quick, and I water them down, so to speak, 50-50 with some airbrush medium. I just find it goes on a little bit nicer. So that's the Sleeper Grime down first of all, and I've just done the two outside edges, and on the old lines at the back I've made it a little bit thicker. If you can see any little white bits, I just put some bits of tape over the point blades where they move, just to make sure I don't get any paint on. Before anybody points out, yes, I should have had a face mask on while I was doing that. It was acrylics, I still should have had a face mask on. I got into the moment and then looked up and saw the cloud around me, so I'm now going to go down the middle with the roof dirt, and I'll wear a face mask. So let's crack on. So I've finished painting all of the track with the airbrush. It's a bit of a subjective matter, it depends what you're happy with. I'm happy with the way mine is. I have cleaned the top of the rails, so they are pretty good. I'll give them another clean tomorrow. But what I want to do now is I just want to tie in these areas here, because we go from quite green lush grass straight into ballast, and obviously in the real world that wouldn't happen. You tend to get more dead grass along the side. So what I've got is my Wws Progress Precision Applicator, which is this little thing. So I'm using the basing glue. It would probably be better to use the spray that I used earlier in the video, but because of the overspray and because this is engaged, this gives me a little bit more control. So I've just put some of the basing glue in a cup with a brush, and all I'm going to do is just anywhere I want the dead grass, just going to put down some basing glue. And then I'm using some Geek Gaming Scenics Static Grass Dead 2mm for this job, and all I'm going to do is turn this on and go over it, and that will basically tie the two different areas together really nicely. Now obviously I need to do the whole of the layout with this. You don't need. So the glue's pretty much all dry, and I am going to leave this now. There's things I could fiddle with and keep doing to it for ages and keep going, but I think it's looking pretty good. I'm going to probably do a little running session right at the end, just so you can see a few trains running through it from a nice low camera angle and get an idea of how it works. But yeah, otherwise I'm just going to be fiddling with this forever and adding more and more detail, and it'll just take forever. You can see this dry grass that I've put in down the side of the lines now. I've put some catenary masts in as well. There's always room for more detail though, isn't there? So at this point, I'm going to call it a day. This video is getting really long. Every video I say I'm going to make them shorter and I never do. But you can see what I've done. I'm going to put in a couple of running shots right at the end, just so you can see the full effect of this. I'm really happy with it. I think it looks really good. There's always room for improvement, and I'm looking at things, and there's some signage and some discarded rails and sleepers and all that kind of thing still to go in there. But I'll revisit it. I'll have to have a little bit of a break from it. And yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below. A massive thank you again to all of my subscribers. And if it's your first time here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, follow along on the journey. There's still tons of work to be done on the layout. For my next video, I'm going to attempt to start work on the country/heritage station, which is just over there off camera. I've got some old Metcalf kits that I want to kind of bring a little bit of up into life from my old layout, so that'll be the next thing. And yeah, keep positive guys, stay safe, and I will be back with you soon. Thanks guys, bye bye.